Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast.
In pharmaceutical manufacturing, success isn't just about contracts and capacity. It's about the people and culture behind the partnerships. From Basel to Indianapolis, from Brazil to North America, building effective external manufacturing relationships requires navigating not just regulatory complexity, but cultural nuances that can make or break supplier prioritization and performance. Today we're joined by Sabrina Mattos, a Senior Director of External Manufacturing for the Americas at Elanco. With over 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry, spanning quality, supply chain and operations leadership, Sabrina brings a unique perspective shaped by her Brazilian heritage and global experience across Latin America, Europe and North America. As a pharmacist who's progressed from quality roles at Eli Lilly through to site head and now leads Elanco's external manufacturing portfolio across the US, Canada and Latin America, she understands both the technical and human dimensions of successful CDMO partnerships. In this episode, we'll explore how cultural differences shape external manufacturing relationships across the Americas, why internal alignment is crucial before engaging with CDMOs, and how Elanco structures its virtual site approach to managing partners across diverse technologies and regions. Sabrina, thanks so much for joining us today. Before we dive into external manufacturing, do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here. And
Pleasure.
so I'm a pharmacist by training. I'm from Brazil, and I've spent a little over 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry. I have the chance to work in different locations, starting in Brazil, then Europe, and now here in US. And I actually started as a QA rep at Eli Lilly in a site in Brazil. And from there, I moved to different roles in quality and supply chain and operations at Elanco. And in 2019, my family and we moved to Switzerland, where I led operation excellence for global external manufacturing. And before my current role, we moved again, and I was the site head of one of Elanco manufacturing sites here in the US. And now I'm leading external manufacturing operations for the Americas region, responsible for all our external partners located in US, Canada, in Latin America.
Well, let's talk about that then. Can you give us a sense of the scope of that portfolio, what it actually looks like day to day?
Yeah, of course. Elanco External Manufacturing, we have three hubs, 2 drug product hubs and one API. And for drug products is defined by region, Americas and international. And in the Americas hub, the one I oversee, is actually a pretty sizable operation, and looking across all the functions that supports this hub, considering quality, supply chain, technical service, and others. And we oversee close to 50 drug product CMOs in the region. And it's really a diverse hub, also in terms of technologies, mainly small molecule. We manage everything from sterile injectables to oral solid dose, premixes, liquids, packaging, and several others. The products we make in this hub reach about 75 countries globally. So day to day, it's a mix of making sure our external partners, our CMOs, can operate safely and reliable and stay in compliance with our standards and regulations. At the same time, also helping them to solve technical issues, to improve their performance and stay ready to meet our customers' demand. So it's a big portfolio and complex, but it's very rewarding because of the scale and the impact America's hub has for Elanco overall.
I know when we spoke before, you explained to me that cultural differences really play a huge role in how you manage partnerships across the different regions you work across. Can you explain a bit more about that?
So across the Americas, the foundations don't change. They are the same. We want the same thing, right? Working with our CMOs, we want, clarity, trust, shared goals. But how we get there can look very different depending on the culture, and understanding those differences is key to build the strong partnership. So in Latin America, everything really starts with relationship if the CMO trusts you as a person, the business flows naturally. And be there, be present makes a huge difference, and can be face to face or texting message, or just showing support in what they are going through or dealing with. And this is a huge deal for them. So really in Latin America, that personal connection drives agility and collaboration with CMOs. Now in US, things tend to be more structured. You need to be much more direct and set clear expectations, align on decisions, timelines, and really performance is in delivery is more important than building relationships. And having structures way of working, they see as helpful and not bureaucracy as they might see in Latin America. So even though the end, goals are the same across the region, the way you build that trust and move forward really depends on understanding and respecting these cultural differences.
I guess it seems like it is both about trust, really. But with Latin America, the trust is built from maybe personal relationships, whereas in North America, it's more trust is more focused on sort of that clear planning and clear operations and communication. It's interesting. So how does that actually translate in day-to-day partnership management?
Sure, in Latin America, partnership feels much more like an ongoing conversation, and there is a lot of real-time interaction, and like issues are in general with both partners, and people appreciate when you're available and accessible, and it's very dynamic. And if something comes up at the plant or the site, they reach you out immediately, like very quickly. So not waiting for the next formal meeting or that formal process, and they expect the same from us. And for example, in meetings before dive into technical topic, they will walk you through what's happening around them, what the team is dealing with, any local challenge, even what's going on in the community. And that's not just storytelling. Understand that full picture is part of how decisions are actually made, and it helps us to see why something became a priority or why timelines shift. You spend little more time connecting as a people, and honestly later on that makes the work really fast. And as I said, in North America the dynamic is more structured, more predictable, and the interaction styles is a bit different too. So in US and Canada, people are very respectful of time and tend to keep communication straightforward. If something is urgent, they will escalate, but otherwise things flow through, agreed, aligned processes and normal governance. It's not that the relationship doesn't matter. It absolutely does, but it grows over time and follows through, commitments and deliveries. So for me, both approaches works really well. It just needs to adapt and how each culture operates.
Yeah, it's a really interesting distinction. Let's switch gears a bit. So let's talk about Elanco. Obviously, it's animal health manufacturing. For listeners who might not be familiar with animal health, how similar or different is it from human pharma manufacturing in terms of external partnerships?
That's a great question, because people assume animal health manufacturing works the same way as human pharma. In many ways, it does. We follow very similar, quality standards, regulatory expectation, and we rely on our CMOs, our external partners, just like human pharma does. But in a business context, animal health is much more, I'd say, competitive market where price matters a lot. So you work with smaller volumes, more diverse technologies and products that need to reach out our customers very, very quick. So that means we have to be more creative and flexible in how we operate with our CMOs. right? So speed is another big difference as well. The animal health market moves really fast, and especially in food animals where seasonality or disease outbreaks can shift demand pretty fast, like overnight. So our CMOs need to be very responsive and flexible for that. So, and customer landscape is also different. We are not just supplying, pharmacies or physicians. We are supporting vets, producers, pet owners, and that creates a different supply chain dynamic and different capabilities we also expect from our CMOs. So, I mean, overall, core principles are similar as human pharma, quality, safety, compliance, but the day-to-day partnership management can be very different and more dynamic because of the nature of animal health business.
And you did touch on the regulatory considerations that they were, you have similar guidelines. But are there any unique regulatory considerations when managing external manufacturing, or is it largely the same framework between human and animal health?
The overall framework is similar. Both human health and animal health medicines follow, good manufacturing practice, regulatory filings, inspections, and quality and safety requirements, right? But animal health does have some important differences. For example, in US, animal drugs are overseen by FDA, CDMO, but depending on the product type, the USDA and our EPA may also be involved, something we don't see in human farming. And there are also unique requirements for food animal. We have to demonstrate that any, drug residual in meat, milk, or eggs are safe for consumers. So, and every product must have defined withdrawal period. That's a layer of complexity human pharma doesn't deal with, right? So that diversity means that also our CMOs can look very different each other in terms of technology and requirements and regulations, and we need to be very flexible and see that and how and also change how we work with them. So the way I summarize, it's the standards can be quite the same, but the scope is different. The framework looks very familiar, but animal health adds layers around species diversity, food safety, and the fact that multiple agencies can and regulate your product.
Let's talk about Elanco's internal structure then. How does Elanco actually structure its internal teams to manage external manufacturing partners effectively?
At Elanco, in external manufacturing, we follow what we call the virtual site model. And when we say virtual site, we are not talking about one CMO that we oversee. It's actually a group of CMOs that are managed together by a dedicated internal team. We call process team, and the process team operates as if all those group of CMOs were one integrated manufacturing site. And just like a physical site, the virtual site has process team leader who brings together, quality, supply chain, technical service, planning, sometimes finance, other functions, the same functions we expect to see in a manufacturing site. So instead of each CMO being managed individually, we manage them as kind of a network with one cross-functional team. So shared KPIs and in a single way of coordinating and managing activities. And that brings consistency, alignment, and transparency, both within our team and with our CMOs. And what's powerful about this approach is that it keeps us very close to our CMOs without overwhelming them. And we are not just checking on them. We are, collaborating, working with them, and with that we make decisions much faster. We solve problems together, and we build the trust I mentioned before. We build that trust because the same internal team stays engaged every day. So in many ways, the virtual site is a mindset as much as a structure. We treat external manufacturing as a natural, let's say, extension of our own operations, and that makes the partnership with our CMOs stronger and much more agile and more effective.
Has that organisational structure sort of evolved over time? Is it relatively new implementation? If it was, what drove those changes?
Our structure has evolved a lot over time. And initially, our external manufacturer organization grew through acquisitions in Elanco. So we were essentially operating as a collection of legacy teams, and we were aligned by region or commercial business units, like in Americas, Latin America and North America was that division, and sometimes pet health or farm animal. And everyone had different priorities, or every functions different priorities, that different ways of working and different expectations. And as the hub expanded and grew, that model created complexity and fragmentation. So we realized that we need a structure that truly supported the scale and consistency. So we stepped back and reassessed everything and rebuilt the organization around process teams. So dedicated cross-functional teams responsible for that groups of CMOs with quality, technical, service, supply chain, and operations, all aligned with the same priorities and goals. We also made a big shift from being organized regionally and or business unit, as I said before, to being organized by technical platform. For me, that was kind of a turning point. It allowed us to build deeper technical expertise, driving standardization and create a more predictable support for our CMOs. And once we align the process teams and the quality and technical teams with operations, everyone shared the same priorities. I can say the impact was immediately, and communication improved a lot. Decision making was much faster, and results just followed. We became stronger in supply reliability and having better deliveries to commercial and real improvements in our quality and supply chain metrics. So I think the shift to happen, or the evolution, because we needed to move away from our legacy structure that we carried over and build something intentionally designed. And the results showed it was absolutely the right thing to do.
What do you think is the importance of aligning internally before engaging with CDMOs?
Internal alignment is absolutely critical before you even start a conversation with a CMO or CDMO, right? When we go to an external partner, we need to show up as one single aligned organization with clear priorities, same message, and no contradiction between functions between ourselves, right? Those CMOs work with many clients, many customers, and they can immediately tell when a company isn't aligned internally. You see it when quality is asking for, one thing, supply chain is pushing something different, and technical is a completely different timeline. And that creates confusion and slows everything down and damages credibility as well. So if we're not aligned, the CMO ends up becoming the referee. They are trying to satisfy conflicting expectation, and that wastes time, drains trust, and often leads to delays, compliance risks, and even increasing cost. So, in worst case, the CMO starts prioritizing other customers where it's much easier to work with. So, but when you are aligned internally, when ops, quality, supply chain, and technical team are all working from the same playbook, the partnership becomes much more productive. Decisions are much faster, escalations are clear, and the CMO can focus on execution instead of, navigating to internal noise. So that's why we put so much emphasis in internal governance and shared priorities. When we show up aligned, we make it easy for our partners also to succeed, and that's when the results happen.
So how do you actually achieve that alignment across procurement, quality, supply chain, and technical teams before sitting down with a partner?
So, as I said, we are very intentional about alignment before even sit down with the CMO through we call JPTs, Joint Process Team. And in the first step, I think is getting operations, procurement, quality, supply chain, and technical team around the table internally and agree in one story. Same message, what we need, why we need it, and what our goals. And the process team leader brings the functions together. We review the data, challenge our assumptions, and make sure everyone is aligned on timeline, risks, and non-negotiables. And we also establish one set of priorities, right? If quality says the biggest risk is validation, but supply chain says it's capacity and procurement's focus on cost, we work through those differences internally first. And the goal is that when we talk to the CMO, we speak with like one voice, right? So governance helps a lot. We have, clear decision rights, escalation paths, and shared playbook. So the CMO isn't getting mixed message. And honestly, alignment isn't just a meeting. It's a culture. The cross-functional process teams know each other, they trust each other, and work together every day. So by the time we show up at the CMO, we are kind of unified, coordinated and ready to move fast. When they do that, the partnership really flows. And when company don't, the CMO spend more time managing the clients, the customers, than actually manufacturing the product.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And so finally then, Sabrina, reflecting on your journey from starting in QA in Brazil
My
to leading
biggest
external
advice
manufacturing
is
across the
to stay
Americas,
curious
what advice
and
would you
stay
give to
close to
early
the
career
work.
professionals,
Early
and what
in
factors have helped you grow along the
career,
way?
the fastest way to grow is understand how things actually happen on the ground. How quality decisions get made, how operations run, how supply chain move, and how people solve problems every day. So that foundation stays with you no matter where your path leads. The second thing, investing in relationship across my career, every transition, assignment, or opportunity came from partnerships and from learning how to influence beyond my responsibilities and my role. So technical expertise matters, but your ability to collaborate, communicate, and build trust is what truly accelerates your development. And and don't avoid complexity, right? Some of the moments that I developed most in my career came from stepping to situations that were unclear, challenging, or simply hard. Those experiences build resilience, confidence, and leadership skills in a way nothing else does. And what makes for me work in Elanco, and it's a great place to really to build that kind of career, and is the environment itself. We are a company where people can make a real impact, and where learn is encouraged, and where you are close enough to the business to see how your work shapes outcomes. So because we operate across diverse products, species, technologies, and markets, y- I'm exposed to a broad set of challenges and opportunities that accelerates development. And it's a place where curiosity is valued, where cross-functional collaboration is part of the culture. and where talent is supported and growing their careers.
Great. Well, Sabrina, thanks a lot for talking to me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.